Welcome to Learncity. In this course, we will explore the concept of cost-push inflation, also known as wage-push inflation, and unravel the factors that contribute to its occurrence. What is cost-push inflation? Cost-push inflation, also known as wage-push inflation, occurs when overall prices increase. Inflation, due to increases in the cost of wages and raw materials. Higher costs of production can decrease the aggregate supply, the amount of total production, in the economy. Since the demand for goods hasn't changed, the price increases from production are passed on to consumers, creating cost-push inflation. Let us look into few key takeaway cost-push inflation occurs when overall prices increase, inflation, due to increases in the cost of wages and raw materials. Cost-push inflation can occur when higher costs of production decrease the aggregate supply, the amount of total production, in the economy. Since the demand for goods hasn't changed, the price increases from production are passed on to consumers, creating cost-push inflation. Now let's discuss what causes cost-push inflation. The most common cause of cost-push inflation starts with an increase in the cost of production, which may be expected or unexpected. For example, the cost of raw materials or inventory used in production might increase, leading to higher costs. As stated earlier, an increase in the cost of input goods used in manufacturing, such as raw materials. For example, if companies use copper in the manufacturing process and the price of the metal suddenly rises, companies might pass those increased costs on to their customers. Increased labor costs can create cost-push inflation, such as when mandatory wage increases for production employees due to an increase in the minimum wage per worker. Unexpected causes of cost-push inflation are often natural disasters, which can include floods, earthquakes, fires, or tornadoes. If a large disaster causes unexpected damage to a production facility and results in a shutdown or partial disruption of the production chain, higher production costs are likely to follow. A company might have no choice but to increase prices to help recoup some of the losses from a disaster. Although not all natural disasters result in higher production costs and therefore wouldn't lead to cost-push inflation. Let me give a brief example of cost-push inflation. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, is a cartel that consists of 13 member countries that both produce and export oil. In the early 1970s, due to geopolitical events, OPEC imposed an oil embargo on the United States and other countries. OPEC banned oil exports to targeted countries and also imposed oil production cuts. 1. What followed was a supply shock and a quadrupling of the price of oil from approximately $3 to $12 per barrel. Cost-push inflation ensued since there was no increase in demand for the commodity. The impact of the supply cut led to a surge in gas prices, as well as higher production costs for companies that use petroleum products.